going to officially call to order Board of Directors regular meeting Wednesday, June 22nd, Woodbury Leadership Academy at 5:30, and we'll start with a roll call. Nancy, if you could help us out.
Sure. Mandy Folks.
Here.
Shannon Kelly is absent. Jason Livingston.
Here.
Julie O's.
I'm not sure.
Shelby Poole.
Here.
Natalie Schoberg.
Here.
And Jolene Scordahl.
Here. Okay. And we have 5 out of 7, so we have a quorum. So we're gonna proceed. Jolene, would you like to read our mission and vision?
Yes. The mission of WLA is to utilize leadership-based programs and strategies grounded in solid research combined with the demonstrated success of core knowledge curriculum as a basis of a rigorous overall educational program that builds strong skills in math, reading, literature, writing, music, science, and technology. The vision of WLA is to be a school where students and graduates become exceptional leaders and are prepared to take on the academic and leadership challenges they will face in high school and beyond.
Thank you, Jolene. Okay, approval of meeting agenda.
I
make a motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda.
I'll second that.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to approve tonight's meeting agenda. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. Approval of May 25th, 2022 meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of May 25th, 2022.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the May 25th, 2022 meeting minutes. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. Fourth thing on the agenda, conflict of interest declaration. Do any board members have any conflicts of interest to declare this evening? Okay, thank you. Number 5 is public comment. Thank you, Nancy. Sarah is signed up to talk this evening. Hi, Sarah. Hi. So we'll give you a few minutes, and we'd love to have you address the board. If you could refrain from using individuals' names in your comments, and that would be wonderful.
Okay, just from here? Or?
You can stand or you can sit, whichever you prefer.
Okay. Well, my name is Sarah Worse, and our family was new to WLA in the fall. We switched right after MEA for my 3rd grader, and he's had a fantastic year. It was great, the best thing ever. I mean, he was drowning the first few weeks at his previous school, which had been going well before. So we have, had experience with other charter schools. This isn't our first time at a charter school. We were at a school that closed right at the beginning of the pandemic, and it was due to a lot of ultimately board governance issues, is what it came down to, in my opinion. They didn't get their charter renewed with their authorizer. And then we went to a different charter school, and it was good until it wasn't, and then we're here, and we're really happy to be here. And I have 2 other kids starting kindergarten this fall, so we're here and starting school career, and we want to stay here, and we know how important it is for a board to be run well. So I was really kind of alarmed when I watched the March board meeting and saw, how swiftly and with little discussion that a board member was removed. And it just raised some red flags for me, especially with my previous experience. It was really concerning. So I was looking into it and I questioned things. I'm a questioner. I know that not everyone is going to agree on everything. I love that everyone comes from different backgrounds and has a different thing that they can put forth. That can raise conflicts also with people, all different kinds. That's what it takes. But a board needs to be able to work through any personal conflicts to get the job done. And I know that's the ultimate goal for everyone, right? I'm not sure if that was shining in that case, and what happened there. And I had emailed the director and the board chair with some concerns, followed kind of that chain there. And I wasn't super happy with everything I had heard. I still had some concerns. And Dr. Mortensen had said if I had concerns to reach out to VOA, so I did. And I received a response from VOA yesterday, and for the most part, I'm happy with the suggestions they have for the board. I think that's good. I think I'm just going to read something that I quick typed out here because I was trying to get everything ready. I feel that regardless of what VOA found during their investigation concerning possible violation of open meeting law, the way that the March meeting was conducted left the impression that there was discussion of some kind prior to the meeting. At the time, I was alarmed with how swiftly things happened and how little discussion there was. I brought those concerns forth. The director stated that there had been previous disparaging remarks made by the board member that was removed. When I inquired into this further, I was given a vague answer about it possibly being at the November board meeting. After reviewing that recording when it was provided to me, I found that the board member made very few comments during the meeting, and of those, they were regarding concerns about WLA's test scores and the cost for a consultant regarding expanding to a high school. I do not see any of that as disparaging. They're very valid concerns that I appreciate a board member bringing forth at a meeting to have those discussions. That's part of what you guys are here to do. So I couldn't find anything disparaging, which was part of the reason for the grounds for removal. So it still feels icky to me. It feels really icky. I feel like if, VOA said that board meetings depend on interaction among people with different values, perspectives, and communication styles. It is almost inevitable that conflict will sometimes occur. It's VOA's position that the WLA board would benefit from adopting procedures to help address conflicts or concerns with or between individual board members prior to removal. The WLA board may want to consider revising the bylaws or add an additional board policy that includes a process for remediation or intervention that should be considered prior to the vote for a removal of a board member. They also said that your concerns about conflicts between board members are valid and you have the opportunity to file a complaint with the board. So I guess I'm not sure where to go from here. I mean, I feel like these concerns are still here. I brought forth concerns. I volunteered myself to help out with things with the school, and I never heard anything back. There's been a couple other times where I've offered to help out with something and I was turned down. We're just starting at the school. I don't want to be like that mom. I'm not here to, get anybody in trouble or say anybody did anything wrong. I just want to make sure that everything is being done how it should be, and that if there is any personal issues or anything, that, set that aside at the door. Sometimes we all need that reminder. I want to help where I can. I'm not able to be on the board right now. That's just not going to happen in my life at this moment. But there's other ways that I'm happy to help out, and I want to be able to and feel welcome to do so, and not hearing responses and things taking a while. It just is a little concerning to me. I appreciate that they recommend the recommendations that VOA has. That's kind of what I have suggested as well, that things are more clear. And with something as serious as a removal of a board member, that the cause for removal is crystal clear, no questions. That everyone understands that these are the reasons, they are valid, and this is what's happening, or they have a chance to fully state, why they disagree with that, and that everyone has full understanding. That's an important thing. That if there's any question, it should be tabled until everybody is in full understanding. So those are, I think, my big issues that bring me here. Otherwise, I appreciate all of you volunteering your time. And I know it is a big commitment, and I really appreciate it, since I'm not in a position to do that right now. I've watched many of the meetings. This is my first time being able to come, but you know, my kids know about this stuff. We do city council stuff too, and you know, we watched a meeting and my son was like, "Is that Miss Squirtle?" You know, it's like, she's on the board. Yeah. Oh, well, that's really cool. You know, so thank you. It does make a difference to all of us. So.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Appreciate hearing from you. And we are going to work through, that is one of the recommendations we're going to work through from BOA tonight too, so.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to move into item 6.1, which is the board report. I guess first I'm going to start with a fun thing. So we went to, BOA had a conference for charter schools last week, and several admin and also board members were able to attend the conference, and during the final night of the conference they present their awards to boards for governance and finance. There's a number of different standards that boards have to meet to earn these awards, and they're kind of, I'll use the word picky, but they're you have to be pretty diligent to earn them. So I'm really pleased to share that our board actually got both awards this year. So I brought them with me because I wanted the board, well, and anyone else here to share because you all play a part in this, but and again, not claiming that, not ignoring that we have more diligent work to do and always room for improvement, but we did earn both the governance award and the finance award. I believe this is the first year we've gotten both the same year. So we were really excited to be able to accept those on behalf of the school, and just look forward to continuing to improve and to better our school. So, want to share? I'm going to pass these around. So, you guys will see them.
Andy, could you already say, like, what criteria do they look at, or how do they decide who gets these
So
awards?
there's a number, there's I think 10 different criteria for each award, and they're kind of picky things on, you know, just maybe I shouldn't say picky, they're very specific things on, you know, holding boards to, you know, all kinds of different things, whether it be in finance, like, you know, your fund balance percentage, you know, finance committee reviewing monthly reports and things that go in our board packets and things getting out on time and published on time, and different policies that we have to adhere to. So,
and you have to score 10.
if you miss just one, you're done. So I do have the list, and I'll show you. We've looked at it before, but hi Brenda. So we'll stay diligent on those.
I'll leave these up here if anyone wants
Okay.
to see them after the meeting.
Okay, and with that, I'm going to hand it to Ben for your, Ben is his first time serving as ex officio board member. Kathy is on vacation this week, the Boundary Waters, and so Ben is filling in, and so we'd love to have you present the director report and the first grade service learning project.
Yeah, so thanks for letting me be here. I mean, Kathy, thank goodness she got to take a little bit of time away, and so I'm happy to step in and kind of relay her message kind of forward. So we're going to start with our first grade service learning project. As you've seen, if you've attended other meetings throughout the school year, or for our board members that have been at all these meetings, we've done a lot of different service learning projects for each grade level. And our last one for this past school year is going to be first grade. So they submitted a quick video for us to watch, kind of a unique and cool project that I know all the first graders loved. So I'll send it over to Natalie, and she'll be able to kind of show that to us.
Hi everyone, I'm Devin Ivey, one of the first grade teachers, and I'm going to share a little about our service learning project. Our service learning project was called Caring Comforts. We wanted to donate gently used or new stuffed animals to children if they were in an emergency. We came up with this idea because one of our first grade teachers, Miss Nelson's husband, is an EMS worker. And our goal was to stuff an entire ambulance. Here is a picture of Miss Nelson's husband and the stuffed ambulance. So we were able to reach our goal. And another picture. Here's a picture of me, Miss Irina, and Miss Nelson with all the stuffed ambulance taking trips down to Miss Nelson's car. Our students really enjoyed the service learning project. Some of the stuffed animals are being donated to the Bayport Police and Woodbury Fire and Rescue. I hope you enjoy learning about our service learning project. Thank you.
Very good.
A great service learning project like all of our other grade levels. I mean, to donate stuffed animals, to give to children that are in need or in crisis at those moments, wonderful thing to do. We're happy our first grade team was able to do that. Other big news, so as far as expansion, remodeling and grounds, if you've seen our building, we're getting very, very close. At this point, the building is nearly finished. They're really working on final cleanings. We're hoping to get the go-ahead to go in there and start doing some of our movement of different materials, hanging of smart boards, hanging of whiteboards, and get really ready for us to be there in the fall. They've been doing all sorts of exterior work as well that can be seen. We have been discussing the possibility of adapting what was going to be kind of our big kids playground, which is over across the street, and kind of adjusting that possibly to be more of a sports area, to be basketball courts, and maybe moving the Gaga pit and potentially even one of our other playgrounds, moving that over there. That's still in discussion at this point, but that's kind of a big move that we're kind of working on. Due to expanding space and enrollment, WLA is gathering bids to expand the nurse's office area.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to ask, how many consecutive years in a row have we discussed moving the Gaga Ball pit down?
When did we get it?
Well, when did we get it?
Right.
So it's a heavy duty thing, so we'll probably have to take it apart to move it. Unless you're volunteering. Are you volunteering to
I
help
helped put it
move?
together, so I know what it takes.
So you're gonna supervise the move? Okay.
You should leave it there and buy a new one.
Oh, okay, we could probably do that too. So we're gonna take bids on expanding the nurse's office downstairs. That will come out of next year's kind of building budget, where we can make renovations to our school. We're also looking at other security measures for in our facility, so we might possibly add some more security measures downstairs, kind of in our main entry or over towards where our kindergarten classrooms are currently. We're really excited about getting this building finished. We're hoping to offer tours as soon as possible. As soon as we get the go-ahead to get people in here, we're going to get the word out to get people through. I think I'm going to be able to, after this board meeting, if people stick around, or when the board goes into closed session, I might be able to take some people over to get kind of a sneak peek, so something to kind of anticipate if you're going to hang around for the duration of the meeting, okay? Skipping ahead for human resources management. So all paraprofessionals, custodian, office staff, teachers, and administrators have been presented with their employment agreement. Wages and salaries are based on market rates of charter schools as well as ISD 622. All employment agreements and salaries are within the 2022-2023 budget that is being presented to the board. All right. There are several positions yet to fill. So we're interviewing candidates, and that will continue through July. So we successfully this week have filled our 6th grade opening. We have conducted interviews for 3rd grade, and we believe we have a candidate lined up for that position. And then we are looking at our 4th grade openings and our middle school math opening. And those we are setting up interviews, or I'm setting up interviews for next week. So hopefully early July, we'll have all of our positions filled as we need. So within the employment agreements, there are some proposed changes for administrator positions. So there's 3 proposed changes. One is that Jess Erickson would move from K4 dean and some operations to a K8 dean. So right now, it would be Jess's first year as the dean of students, but we're proposing to change that she would be the K8 dean of students. It's also proposed that Andy Sharp would move from grades 5-8 dean and some operations to teaching a few of our leadership classes, about a 0.50 FTE. So about half of his day would be teaching leadership classes. combined with being a transportation coordinator and managing bus behaviors and incidents, as well as being our backup dean. So if there's ever a situation where Jess were to get overwhelmed, Mr. Sharp would step into that role. Or if there was a day that, Ms. Erickson decides to take a PTO day, Mr. Sharp would step in. And then the other proposed change would be Ben Broderick from assistant principal to principal. As a principal, he or I will be, I'll be supervising both deans, conduct formal observations for about a third of the staff, and manage day-to-day operations of the school. Also in this category is we are really looking to try and hire a .10 band instructor. So over the last couple of years, we've done after-school band, and it has worked well. And we are a growing program, but in coordination with that group, they really advise us trying to get it within our school day as much as possible. So we are looking to potentially do a .10, which would equate to right around 1 day out of a week, where someone would be able to come in and pull students for lessons. And so that's something that we're looking forward to trying to do. Okay, moving on. Provisions for safe and effective learning environment. At the WLA conference, we were, all of us got to go to a wonderful presentation by Ms. Dodds. Ms. Dodds is a teacher at Red Lake School, which encountered a school shooting. I believe it was in 2005. And so at that presentation, it just made it very clear that we got to continue to be proactive with our safety measures when it comes to the school. So we are organizing a comprehensive security analysis to occur in early July with a handful of people to assess the needs in greater detail. So we fully acknowledge that while we bring in expertise to the table, we need to get other outside expertise to come in and kind of evaluate our school and make sure that we're presenting as safe of an environment as possible for all of our students. All right, last one, sorry. Communications management. So the Apex Fun Run was held on May 25th, and this event raised over $40,000. Incredible amount of money for our Apex Fun Run. Surprised a lot of us. I think our goal, what was our goal?
I think it was 12,000 last year.
12,000 last year?
Yeah.
So just went above and beyond. After paying the fee to the fundraising company, WLA intends to purchase student devices for the younger grade levels. So we intend to take some of those funds and start kind of bolstering our younger grade level technology needs. And then the carnival was held on May 26th. And again, we are hoping to use the proceeds to purchase student devices for younger grade levels. If you went to the carnival, you know how wonderful the event that was. It was jam-packed. We had students come back that have been here in previous years. We had a few sophomores in high school show up just to come back and be on the WLA premises, which is just a wonderful thing to see. So all very exciting things. The last thing I'm going to throw out there before I'll conclude our director's report is, if you haven't seen it already, SWCTC put out a wonderful video on Woodbury Leadership Academy. If you just go to YouTube and you search Woodbury Leadership Academy, it will pop up. Really great things being shown that are happening here at WLA. And I just encourage everybody to kind of check out that video and share it with all those that you know. And we'll keep pushing that out to all of our stakeholders. So, thank you.
Can you share your fun news about the one Apex person that's joining us?
Yes.
That's a fun tidbit.
So, for those of you that don't know, when Apex is here, they bring their whole staff in and they do different activities with different students. And we had one of the Apex members who came forward and was just like, I love this school. And we sat down, we talked, and they wanted a job opportunity to work at WLA. So when he was working for Apex, he was known as Cheese Puff. I told him he is no longer allowed to be called Mr. Cheese Puff. He must go by his correct name. But Mr. Hunt, Caden Hunt, has joined our staff, and he's actually been working with us already this summer, joining our team. He'll join our team as a paraprofessional. And he's really a can-do guy, really excited to have him here. And I know that the kids are going to go crazy when they see him now as a WLA staff member. They just loved him when he was here with Apex, and we're really fortunate to have him. So we're really excited about that.
It's fun. Okay, good job, Ben. Questions for Ben? Okay. We are going to move on then. I saw Bridget on Zoom there to our financial director report.
Okay, share my screen. So tonight we are reviewing May financials, and then we will go on to next year's budget as well. But we'll start with these financials. So let's scroll down to the executive summary. Give a nice overview. So the revised budget for the current fiscal year, we had budgeted 634 ADM, and the last ADM report I saw, which was at the end, early June, I believe it was, late May, early June, 635, so right on target. We budgeted in the general fund a surplus for $1,300 for overall. The projected cumulative fund balance is expected to be just short of 1.9 million, or 27% of expenditures at fiscal year end. Projected days of cash on hand at the end of May, 106, and this is well above the minimum bond covenants that requires 45 days. As of the end of May, 92% of the year was complete. Cash balance was sitting at about $1,950,000, down just a little bit from the previous month. The current year holdback balance is $321,000. And as a reminder, the state holds back 10% of state aids, and they will repay those the following fiscal year. So the majority of this will come in the fall of this upcoming fiscal year. Revenues received compared to budget at the end of May, 91.3, and as a reminder, 92% of the way through the year, so right on target there. And expenses compared to budget, 87.8, so we're a little bit under there. Other items which I can point out on the statement of revenues and expenses too, but the field trip admissions line is slightly over budget, but as a reminder, that's offset by fees from students as revenue. And the other rentals and leases line is also over budget, and that's due to the 3 monthly storage units that the school is renting during the construction process, and that will be done, at the end of the fiscal year as well. So moving on to the dashboard. So this is just a nice way, a different way to look at the numbers, more in a graph form. This shows our approved and revised budget and where we're at year to date. So again, about 6.2 for the revenues and 6 million for expenses. And these graphs show 92% of the way through the year and then where we're at with revenues. This graph shows our budgets and how it's broken down. So revenues primarily comes from state revenues, and then the expenses budget and where that's broken down. Primarily salaries and benefits is a big chunk of that. Fund balance history over the last 5 years, and then where we're projected for this year. And then a few more graphs, the financial trends. So this diagonal line shows where we are at through the year, so 92% right here, and then the revenues compared to expenses. So revenues are above the expenses as mentioned. And then our enrollment summary, and again, right at that 634, 635, so on target there. Enrollment history graph, and then just the cash balance graph too. Moving on to the balance sheet. So this shows where our cash is at. State aid receivable, just a little bit that's trued up from the prior year. So a little bit extra cash that we're expecting from where we ended the last year's the audit. The current year's state holdback receivable, which I had mentioned, that will get paid back next fiscal year. And then some federal aids receivable, which is very typical. Any federal revenue expenses that we have, we get fully reimbursed, and a lot of times that comes after the fiscal year is closed, once the expenses are done. Moving down to the current liabilities, this shows, basically we approve for what we will pay the teachers over the summer for the school year. So this is what will get paid out in July and August for the fiscal year 22. Are there any questions so far? I'll move on to statement of revenues and expenses. So this one is specifically, this page shows our revenues and the breakdown. So here we have our state revenues, and as you can see, we have received 91.7% of what we budgeted, which is pretty much right on to where we're at through the fiscal year, which is what is expected. Federal revenues, and as I mentioned, this is fully reimbursed, and so basically these, as we spend these, then we submit for reimbursement from the state, which are the feds, and we get reimbursed for those. Local revenues, those are a little bit smaller pots of money, but you can see there's that fees from students, and that's also over budget, and that's what I had mentioned with the field trips. So, you know, we had overspent on field trips, so we also have we are over budget on our revenues as well. Moving down to, this is the expenditures. So you can see, this is where we're at the year-to-date activity through May, the total spent, and then the percent of budget. So a couple of the lines I had mentioned are over budget, but then we have some that are under budget too, and overall we are under budget. So we're, you know, we're well within the budget. I had mentioned that other rentals and leases, that's right there. And the field trips, admissions. Utilities is down, and that has been analyzed. It's just, I think we had budgeted a little bit extra, and the way the year's turning out, we're under budget there, which is fine. And moving down to the community service fund, Fund 4. This is just where that playground equipment was spent. You can see we dipped into the fund balance there. And then the total for all the funds. So this is the general fund and the community service fund. And then this shows where we're at. So we had budgeted a slight deficit. Right now we're trending above, but there's still plenty to be done as we tie up year end and go through the audit process as well. Any questions on the financials, specific lines? Okay, I'll move on to our cash flow projection summary. So this shows us each month, and specifically May is highlighted because that's the month we're going through, the revenues that we received, and again, primarily state aid payments come in, and then a little bit of other receipts. So $526,000 in revenue came in for the month. And then this part shows the expenses. So salaries that were paid out, and then all other invoices that went out. And this ties back to the cash balance on the balance sheet. And then this is the contracted services report. So this ties back to, on that statement of revenues and expenses, there's a specific line that's called contracted services, but a lot of things get paid out of there. So this just breaks that down into more detail. You can see we had budgeted a little bit higher, and some lines are over, but overall we're under. So I think that's it for this financial report. If there's any questions. If not, I'll quickly go on to a nice kind of full circle picture showing the expenses that went out for the month. So these are all the payments that were made in the month of May, $404,000. And then this is the same information, just in a little bit more detail. You can kind of see the account code we use internally, who we paid, the vendor, and then what it was for. And that's that ties back to 404,000. And then the next report here is the receipt listing. So this is all the revenue that we received for the month. This will show, as I had mentioned, like aid, 258,000, and then similar right here. That's primarily what came in, and then there's a little bit of other receipts that we received. So 526,000 in revenue that came in, and then this last report shows the journal entries that were done in the system, and this will always debits will equal credits. It's just
But I think
oh shoot.
we'll just try to power through, I think, and we'll let you know if it freezes again.
Okay. Did you need me to review anything in particular?
Anyone have questions?
I don't think we really missed anything.
No, I think we were on this page when you froze, so I think we're.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay.
Were there any questions on the financials?
No.
Okay, good. I can move on to the budget. That's, I think that was next up.
Actually, do you mind holding off for just a second, Bridget? We'll,
Absolutely.
We're just gonna work through kind of our agenda in order here. So it is coming up here soon. And if you, I think you normally do anyway, but if you could stay on until the very end of the Finance Committee report, because we're gonna go through, we have a number of things to work through, and we might need your thoughts here and there. So, so I'm actually going to send it over to Jolene to talk about the June Finance Committee minutes and some of these other items, and we'll get Bridget's input where we need to.
All right, very good. Finance Committee held their regularly scheduled meeting on Wednesday, June 8th at 9:30. Instead of a normal 4:30 time, it was a virtual meeting. During this meeting, we discussed many of the contracts that are highlighted in our agenda for the evening. So I'll just go through and quickly review those and then go ahead and make the motions to accept those.
Sure.
Oh, we should? All right. So we began our meeting, as we always do, by reviewing financial statements for May by Bridget, which she just did for us, and they're all on target where they need to be. And we reviewed the new budget for 2022-2023, and Bridget will be proposing that, and we'll make a motion to accept that as well. We approved some PTO days from Ms. Bauman, who wasn't able to take some of those days, and those were already in the budget as well. We reviewed the Bonart bus contract, employment agreements, and a new lease for the copy machine. All of those are included in the packet, and we'll be proposing those for accepting those for the board. We also reviewed or discussed trying to find a different benefits broker. Kathy and Nancy are looking into those things, and that'll be brought forth for the next board meeting. We reviewed some notifications from the IRS and from the Minnesota Secretary of State, and Bridget stated that those issues have been resolved as well. And we also decided to move our July committee meeting to 9 a.m. on Wednesday, July 13th. Are there any questions in regards to the Finance Committee meeting minutes? Okay, if there aren't any questions, I'd like to make a motion to accept the Finance Committee meeting minutes and the May financials.
I'll second that. There's been a motion and a second to accept the June Finance Committee minutes and the May financials. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. You talk about the copier contract?
Sure. In your packet, you will have seen the new contract for a 5-year contract with Toshiba. So at this time, I would like to make a motion to accept the 5-year Toshiba copier contract.
I'll second it and then ask if there's further discussion. And then I maybe ask Nancy, you've done a lot of legwork on this contract, just a short, you want to tell us a little something about why you feel like this is the best contract to accept?
This is a state negotiated contract, so we don't have to go out for bid on it. And if you look at the rates and stuff, the state actually negotiated down, so it's going to save us about $150 a month on this contract versus the one we're currently on. Ours expire in September, so I'm hoping we get them in place by the start of the school year because there is a backlog in ordering them. Mm-hmm. But we average about 950,000 copies a year, and at this point in time, the salesperson is not really recommending that we add another copier based on our volume. And we've had good luck with Toshiba. The only times we've had issues were 2 times it was down for an extended period of time. Both times I was not made aware that they were not working, so I hadn't called service because I didn't know that they were down. So they responded pretty fast otherwise.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna ask what the service response time was. And how many-
It's typically same day.
Is that gonna be the
unless there's
same
a
in the
part
new
that's-
contract as well?
Yes, unless
Okay.
there's a part that they need to order that they don't have on hand.
Cool. Nice job. I noticed that you had the state contract in there, so that's
Yeah.
a nice win.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion passes. Okay, let's talk about the Monarch bus contract.
Again, this is listed in your packet for your review. So at this time, I would like to make a motion to accept the Monarch bus contract.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to approve the Monarch bus contract for the 2022-23 school year. Is there any further discussion?
I just want to ask, I know we've had issues with identifying solid busing in the past, and Monarch kind of has really stepped up a little bit. I'm just wondering, did this contract go out to bid, or how did we come to agreement on it?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about it a little bit, Nancy? Or do you?
I wasn't really involved in it, but I know that it didn't go out for bid, and the rationale behind not going out is because in past years, we've not been able to have anybody bid successfully and be able to provide the service, the number of buses that we need.
It did initially go out for bid. Like
Yeah,
when we
it did
initially were looking to provide public transportation, when we moved to this building, we realized we wouldn't be able to rely on 833 for transportation anymore. We did go out for bid from several different vendors.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
maybe rephrase my question, and that's why I was asking, is because I know that nobody responded basically last time, so.
Well, we had
And
one
620, yeah, we did have one response, but it was a company that was a startup and pretty iffy. And 622 has no interest in providing busing for us.
Okay, that's good enough for me.
Okay.
I have another question. With like shortages and stuff, if they're not able to fill all 11, like let's say they don't have 11 bus drivers for us, what does that look like, or what happens? Does it change the contract price? Is that written somewhere that it's just the bus doesn't run that day?
We have not had that issue this past year. So they've been able to provide, they've got substitute drivers, they've been able to provide busing, all the buses every day.
Is your school contract busing?
We do not, we have our own.
So ultimately it would be their responsibility to find us up, no fee to us.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to accept the Monarch bus contract. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. Okay, Bridget, I know you're still on the line there. We are now ready to be presented the 2022-23 school budget.
Perfect. Okay. So we, as Mandy just said, we're looking at the fiscal year 23 budget. So you can see here, it's the green or the sage colored column. We are budgeting for 724 students, and that's an increase of 90 students over this revised, or this current fiscal year. The next part I'll kind of skip through, because basically these are just calculations that are based, we get for the state revenue based on our ADMs. And the summary is down here, so it comes basically this general fund revenue summary. So basically this calculates based on ADMs. We're budgeting total state aid revenue, 7.6 million. Total federal revenue, 283,000. So what this encompasses, again, this is fully reimbursed, we get reimbursed for all the expenses. So a little bit of federal special ed, and then the rest of this is well, there's title down here, but then these numbers right here, the 17,000 down to the 122 are just some ESSER and CARES grants that are left over from previous fiscal years, so a little bit left over there. And then our other revenue, 57,000, primarily fees from students and some donations. So that gets us to a budget for total revenue in the general fund, 7.9 million. I'll move down. The next portion shows our expenses. So our salary line and our benefits. And the salaries are based on the contracts. These are what the contracts that were negotiated that we received from Kathy and Nancy. The benefits, I did budget a 15% increase for health insurance because I know that wasn't settled, and then 5% for dental. And then the rest, most of these lines have just a general 2% increase unless we knew of any other, things like utilities. That was based on the current year analysis, but we did add a line for the expansion, knowing that that will increase our utility costs, so that's a separate line. The repairs and maintenance does have a slight increase, knowing that with the expansion, but then it was also noted that there may be less snow plowing and grounds maintenance on the fields due to the smaller parking lot, and then also with the school partnering with the city of Woodbury to trade indoor and outdoor space usage. Transportation, that is based on the bus contract that was just discussed. And then the bonds, that's set based on our lease expenses based on the lease agreement. Then moving down, a couple other lines I just wanted to highlight. That building improvement line right here. So we have 205,000 budgeted there. And that includes a budget for 20,000 for a concession stand / some kitchen equipment, $60,000 for that nursing area renovation that I know Ben had talked about a little bit earlier in the director's report, and then we did set aside $125,000 for playground equipment. It's kind of like the first tier, and hoping to do that over a couple of years. So you can see that's also budgeted in the future years. That's kind of the base, I just wanted to point out a couple lines. If there's any specific questions, I'm happy to try to answer those as well. You can see down here the federal grants, those revenues equal expenses. Then down here, so total general fund expenses, 7.6 million, almost 7.7 million. For a general fund net income of $255,000. And that is, I know it's a little bit higher than what's been done in the past, and what's driving that is there's which is down on the next page, but there's a calculation for what we call MADS, maximum annual debt service, and it requires the school to have that at 1.25. So essentially the net income available for debt service over what that highest maximum debt amount is, and that calculates out to 1.25. So part of that is having this net income a little bit higher than typical, than what you've seen before. And then the community service fund, real quick here, that we're budgeting $7,500 in expenses, a little bit of that fund balance. You can see the fund balance is at the end of this current fiscal year is going to be $55,000. We had spent that down on that playground equipment, and part of the statutes, Minnesota statutes allow, I think it's 5% can be spent on things outside of the community service fund, and so we're setting aside, just budgeting $7,500 to put towards some of that playground equipment. Then that gets us down to the total net income of $248,000, and an estimated ending fund balance of $2.1 million. This shows kind of just a few other targets that we need to, that'll have your 28%. Fund balance percentage, days cash on hand, 91, and then those other calculations I had mentioned, the MADS calculation. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that budget. I know we did discuss it quite in depth at the finance meeting a couple weeks ago, but.
Can you just comment really quickly on the assumed ABM?
Assumed ADM.
Or, yeah, ABM.
Yeah, so that is based, really is driven from Dr. Mortensen. That's kind of where we had our discussions, and I think they're hoping to grow, looks like quite a bit in kindergarten, and a few other grades as well.
Sure. I just would maybe ask Nancy or Ben, since Dr. Mortensen's not here. We see that in the windshield, right?
Yeah.
I know you do, but I'm asking for.
Do you know what our current enrollment is right now?
Nancy would be able to have that, possibly, but
It's in your mailbox downstairs.
my office is on 3rd floor.
The 724 is a number that I put together based on historical attrition by grade, and then looking forward to what I'm expecting that we'll have based on the enrollment process right now, where we're at right now. Hopefully when we get towards when we start marketing that building, because we really haven't done any marketing, I'm sort of taking into consideration that we're going to start doing some marketing this summer. So hopefully that'll work. And that is actually down from the numbers that were in the bond projection, and I don't remember what those were. But I brought that number down because I didn't think that the bond one was realistic. I think that was like 785 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. Do you know where we're at currently?
Well, it's really hard to tell because nothing happens very much in June, because I think everybody takes a huge sigh of relief that school's over, we've made it. And then once stuff starts showing up in stores, school supplies and uniforms and things, that's when people start thinking about applying. So really there's not a lot of activity right now. July and beginning of August is when it'll really start up heavy.
When's the date for re-enrollment? When we ask, returning.
Everybody that is currently enrolled stays enrolled unless they tell us otherwise, or we get a formal records request from a different school. There is no re-enrolling process. They're just automatically.
And there's no deadline to unenroll?
There's no deadlines to unenroll.
Okay.
And do we have wait lists in any of our grades yet?
No,
Okay.
not yet.
But it's probably because we're expanding.
I have a little bit of a follow-up question on that. I guess if we look back to this year, with our original budget being about 50 more than what we landed at, if that happens next year, where would we sit? Because it seems like this year it didn't hurt us that much overall. We were able to just revise the budget. But if that kind of happened again next year and we didn't hit our proposed numbers, would it look similar to this year where we would be able to kind of balance that?
Yeah, maybe that's a question for Bridget. I mean, I think to summarize, is there a
That
low,
was to the group.
Yeah, is there a low watermark that we're looking at? Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah, this year I didn't know if 50 was a big number to need to revise, or if that was pretty okay.
Well, based on how we finished the year after revising down 50 and we still finished ahead, I'd say that it wasn't an issue. But
Bridget, have you done any sensitivity analysis? I know we did that back in our bonding days, and I know you guys continue to keep kind of thumbs on that, but what's your gut feeling if enrollment was a little under what was projected? How would that affect financials and bond covenants?
Sure. So, like I said, we are projecting that healthy net income. Now, I might throw it to Brenda to see how that would affect that MADS. We would obviously be able to try to cut as much as we could. I mean, if your enrollment is down, so maybe if there's open positions, we would not fill those positions. That would be a big piece of that, which helps. That's one thing. And then you just keep looking at each line, which is what we did in depth and doing analysis to see where we're at and if we can cut anything else.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I think the reason the loss in 50 this year was unusual. That's not typical, especially for a school that's growing. But that was a very consistent picture we saw with many of our schools, with a drop of 30 to 50 kids. So we don't think that will be a typical year. We feel like that is kind of like a result of the pandemic. One reason why we were able to make it through and balance the budget was because we had the federal funds to help balance. So Bridget, if you go down to the federal line item for the 21-22 year, you'll see that we were able to budget quite a few line items of federal funding to help cover some of those current costs that we have.
Yep.
Very few of those are new expenditures. We try to cover as many current staff costs. So next year we're already budgeting to try to cover some of those costs with revenue, and you definitely, like I would couple with what Bridget said. If you have a loss in enrollment that much, typically there's maybe a position or two that you would have to either not hire if not filled yet, or kind of shift things around a little bit.
Thank you, Brenda. Yeah, we had several federal funds that could have been used over like a number of years, and we elected to kind of hang on to some of those and rainy day fund a few of them, so that could be helpful too. Okay. Is there a motion?
Excuse me. I'd like to move to approve the 2022-23 budget with general fund revenues of $7,942,784 and expenditures of $7,687,154 and community service fund revenues of $0 and expenditures of $20,000.
That was actually changed on the version there.
Yeah, I think this is the most.
Sorry.
I think she changed just a few things.
It was $7,500.
For community service?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll amend that motion to include, can I just say the last part?
Yeah.
To include the community service fund revenues of $0 and expenditures of $7,500.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to approve the 2022-23 budget as Jolene has stated. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Okay, all right. Ratifying 2022-23 employment agreements.
Do I need to say that those two things? All signed contracts.
Ben, do you want to just set this one up? In our board packet, I'm sorry, putting you on the spot here.
Sure.
Just in our board packet, we have a list of employment or people who are returning to school. Talk a little bit about retention of teachers and.
Sure.
Yeah.
So at the end of the school year, those teachers that we choose and staff that we choose, we offer out agreements for the upcoming school year. And as I said in the director's report, we have made those offers to all employees. At this point, you have a list of those names, but 2 of the names on those lists have not returned signed agreements. So when you're going through to ratify agreements, can't really necessarily do that with people that haven't returned said agreements.
You haven't accepted.
Haven't accepted at this time. So I'm not sure how you would like to move forward. Do you need those names announced, or do you need?
I can put it in the motion. So I'll make a motion to approve or ratify the employment agreements presented in our board packet, and with the exception of 2 that are listed that are not ready to be ratified yet, which is Andy Sharp's and Jacob Schringer's. So those will be ratified at a different time when they're available.
All right, I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion? I'm sorry.
I have a question. So Andy is the one that they suggested just becoming K-8 dean and Andy doing something different. So if Andy decides not to come back, then will they post for that position? Will they readjust duties again? What will that look like?
We would post for that said position, which would be probably a 0.5 teaching agreement along with 0.25 transportation and a 0.25 admin is kind of how we would post it.
Any other discussion? All right, there's been a motion and a second, so all those in favor, aye? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. So congratulations, teachers. Excited to have you back. And welcome to new ones. I noticed a lot of new names on there, so that's fun as well. It'll be fun to meet all the new teacher names. Okay, is Bridget still on? Oh, Brenda is. Brenda, if you're still on, thank you for helping us get through all the finance matters. All right, Natalie, we're gonna move it to you for governance committee report. Yes.
I'm gonna go ahead, we can end the Zoom, right?
Yeah, she can end if you want, or she can stay on, whatever she wants to do. You can, whatever.
Okay, I think I'll end it, Brenda. That's just
Okay,
okay.
bye.
Bye.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
Have a great summer.
Yes, okay. We had a busy month for governance. So we met a little early for our June meeting on Tuesday, June 7th at 9 a.m. And we did have to move on to Google Meet, just Zoom wasn't working. So we did move on to Google Meet, and that was posted on the website. We had a big agenda planned, but we needed to table a few items just because of the time limit we had at that meeting. We did discuss a second reading for 506. Jason had recommended looking at other schools and just comparing our discipline policies. So we went through that and just kind of looked at it line by line and compared it to some other, I think, like White Bear, some other districts we know that have up-to-date policies. And it looked very similar. There wasn't anything that we were missing or that they had that we thought would be good to add. We had already added that kind of graph or table at the end of just kind of like if this then that guidelines kind of. So that was already in there as well. Other than that, we didn't change anything. There might have been a few formatting things. Then we looked at 514 again. We didn't change anything from when it was presented to everybody in May, I think was when I presented it before. And that's our bullying policy. I did see some of the things that VOA had for suggestions. So I don't know how we would want to handle that, if we want to move 514 in a second reading or kind of pause onto that and wait till we see if it's reflected well with what VOA wants us to do. So we can kind of talk about that as well.
Yeah.
And then something exciting, we looked a lot at 540, our uniform policy. We discussed adding dark gray to the K-5 uniform to kind of give them another option because the middle school does have quite a few more color options for shirts. And then we didn't have time to really wrap up that policy when we really wanted to get it nailed down for the new year. So we met on June 13th, the following Monday, and just looked at the uniform policy and really kind of squared that away. So for our minutes on June 13th, we met at 4:30 on Zoom. We focused really on the wording of the policy. We added in some definitions of spirit wear because that was kind of confusing this last year. So that, all teachers and all office staff know how to deliver that message as well to families. We kind of reformatted the whole policy, so you'll see there's a lot of red, and the hope is that it makes it a lot clearer to families what colors are allowed for shirts and the question.
Yeah, because I don't think I saw it, but I could have missed it. Is there anything in there about non-compliance?
About what to do if
Yes.
somebody's not. Yes, so we looked at that actually a lot.
Okay, good.
And we had done it, we had gone through it, and then we looked at it again at this June 13th meeting, and we kind of made it a little bit more brief, but, to the point. So if you look under item 2B, so it kind of has a first violation, a written or verbal warning to a student's family, so kind of like, informing the family that, it happens, especially in the beginning of the year, but, here's our policy, here's what's expected. The second violation, the student must change into a school uniform. And the reason we kept that vague is we do have some options where we can provide that, change of clothes. Some students keep changes of clothes in their backpacks, especially younger grades, so they could just change into a uniform that they have. Or a parent would need to bring a uniform. So there's kind of different ways that would be resolved. But, a student would need to change into an appropriate uniform. And then the family would be contacted again. And then third or continued violations, the family would have a conference with administration just to review policy and see if there's any other resources or things that we can provide the family.
Does it, I don't remember, does it address if the parent has to bring something up? Do they stay in class until the parent gets here, or are they pulled aside?
That's what we kind of made it more vague because of just we wanted to make sure what we were doing was legal, like pulling students out. That's not really a suspension for a uniform violation, if that makes sense. Ultimately, the goal would be that we can get them to change into something of ours or something of theirs and get them back in class because we want them to be in class. But if we need to contact families, then that would need to happen that day, kind of thing. They would need to get a uniform as soon as possible. That makes sense.
I have a question about, so the first, second, third violations, and this is probably more of a Ben question than committee commission question, but who's keeping track of that and where is that being done at?
So that should be kept by the dean, who is, same with our technology violations.
Okay.
Technology violations, first, second, third, are kept. Where that becomes tricky is if teachers are addressing first concern inside a class, and then when they get to the second concern, we got to make sure we have a good communication chain to make sure that happens. Natalie, in your discussions, was there any discussion about purchasing of any larger uniforms?
We talked a bit about asking PTO to see if they had anything like in the uniform store, anything that they just had that we could purchase by school, from them just in the larger sizes. I don't even know what our inventory is down there. That'd be like a Timbra question maybe, just so that we had maybe one of each size would be good.
Yeah, I went through the lesson plan at the end of the school year and took all the uniform stuff out and then we're gonna launder it and bring it, but donate it, because the uniform thing, like things with their logo, that could definitely be, because either gonna be donated or used here, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, that might be helpful, because there's several larger things in there.
So I noticed in our staff handbook, there is a there's a ticket.
Yeah.
That should be given to students to give to their families and so forth. And if there was some sort of paper train that could be kept track of to be with the teacher and with the dean or some sort of.
I think Jess, as incoming dean, is really trying to push for us having, using Synergy more effectively because, a paper Jess still wouldn't know if I sent a ticket home kind of a thing. So I think her goal, and she is on the governance obviously, is to kind of move towards that.
The other issue there is the more likely offenders are probably the older kids, and is a paper ticket going to actually make it home?
Right.
And I think even with younger grades, an email home is typically what happens. And I know there are things in Synergy and technology that we can use where you can send that message through Synergy so that it's documented for you and you don't have to go separate. So I think, I don't know who that would be a goal for, is like kind of looking into that Synergy documentation, because I think it would apply for other policies as well, like discipline. Jess was, when we were talking about that, she was like, just keeping a record would be so much easier on Synergy, and it has the whole platform to be able to do that. I have no idea, and I don't know if she knows what it would take for us to get that up and running. I know it sounds like it would be a lot of training for teachers, but
she's been talking to the middle school of us as well a lot about utilizing Synergy for things like that.
So I don't know if it's something that Jess wants to spearhead, but with her new position, that it would make her job easier as well.
Sure.
She had mentioned some training that she could probably do.
Yeah, I think Synergy, somebody would need to be trained and then train everybody. So, yes. But I agree, agree that there is, like, we need a better policy or a better way, it's a procedure, not a policy, to track
those things.
Much paper.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I like the parent meeting after third violation because our violators of our uniform policy are typically consistent violators of our uniform policy. And so having that meeting with parents to kind of sit down and talk about the reasons necessarily that's happening. Because in times past, if a student has been pulled from class, that's a way to get out of class. And all I have to do is not wear my appropriate attire. And so being able to sit down with parents and have that open discussion, which we were doing anyway, but having it in a written format and required, I think is a good step to have.
I think another item of this that isn't in here, but we were also talking about doing a training maybe at the beginning of the year, like Jess and I, for teachers on like, so that they know what this should look like. And, if we do use Synergy, then teachers know how to enter that and know that's where they need to document it to. So that's a whole other piece as well. As far as other things we changed, we added a PE uniform for middle school students, so you'll see that in there as well. And Jolene helped a lot with that. Obviously, just making it clear that it's for middle school only, and it's only going to be worn on their scheduled PE days. So students will be responsible for knowing their days that they have PE, and they'll be able to use this special uniform for PE days only. And then they can't mix and match their uniform with their PE uniform on those days. It's either PE or regular uniform. And then Jolene will be reaching out to our uniform vendors to get those PE shirts designed and made and up on the ordering website as well. So that's exciting. That's exciting.
So they can wear it all day.
Yes. We want to get rid of some of the locker room action that happens. That's where we have the most discipline problems. So go to the locker room, they can freshen up, they don't need to change, just, that type of thing. So, and then as well, we want them to be comfortable and feel they have the freedom to participate in class and not have to be so cottony.
Can you provide deodorant in there?
Well, that is on their list of supplies, labeled as well.
Other than that, the dark gray shirts, we decided to keep that as an option, just for the younger grades, so that they kind of have that special option as well. And then, our hope was that everybody's on board to approve this tonight, so that we can kind of feed it out to families for the new year, and they can start ordering their dark gray shirts if they want. Other than that, we are choosing to postpone our July meeting. We're just going to meet in August at our regular time. And then we'll be talking through some policies that we needed to kind of push or kick down the road that aren't as pressing for time at this point. So, any other questions or discussion on that 514, kind of how do we want to enter our bullying policy again in the second reading, or do we want to have the governance committee review it with the WLA suggestions and just make sure?
Yeah, I think so. I think it makes most sense to review it with the suggestions. I also think, so I know we haven't got there yet, but the VOA suggestions, I think we need to get back to them if we are wanting to make any changes to the timeline. So we do have an option to adjust some of these dates, but when we get there, Natalie, let's just talk through, like, for example, if they're wanting a big policy review to happen in July, and then you're saying that you would maybe potentially not meet in July, clearly that doesn't work out. So when we get there, let's just revisit your statement too. But I think, let's leave that policy where it's
just
at.
514 and then on to the other one.
What do you think? Okay. I don't know if anybody has a different suggestion.
I don't think the discipline policy, I think what they wanted was already done, so.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I will make a motion to accept the June 7th governance committee minutes, the June 13th governance committee minutes, and enter policies 506 and 540 in the second reading.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, so there's a motion and second to accept the June 7th governance committee minutes, the June 13th governance committee minutes, and enter policies 506 and 540 into second reading. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that motion passes. Okay, so moving on to facilities committee report. This should be fun one. Jason?
Yeah, so we don't have minutes to approve this month, because we just had our meeting yesterday,
Yeah.
which was pushed from the prior week because our team was at an offsite. So nonetheless, I can update on a couple of things. Originally, we're looking to get our provisional certificate of occupancy June 15th. And that has been pushed due to a number of different reasons, mostly related to inspections. Roshan, our builder, has been doing the best job they can to get us in there as soon as possible for full occupancy. Now, the only thing that will keep us from doing that as soon as possible is as soon as we do that, then our warranty period starts. So we want to make sure that we're not just accepting occupancy prior to being ready to accept occupancy at this point in time, because we've done what we needed to do with moving into classrooms. We've been allowed to do these certain things. So, it's kind of a fluid timeline, but, Ben, you can probably tell me, I'm trying to remember what the revised date was. I believe it's next week.
Yeah, like you said, it's pretty fluid, so we've heard a couple different things. I hope to be able to move, so currently we've been able to move items into third floor. So third floor classrooms that are going to belong to third floor teachers have their items in the middle of their classrooms. They cannot be set up, they cannot do anything like that. So we signed a temporary agreement to be able to do that, acknowledging that if we cause any damage to the building when we go over there, that we're responsible for that. Our hope is to be able to do the same thing on the second floor, to be able to get fifth grade items on the second floor. That way we can move people into their hopefully forever homes in this current building relatively soon. But all that gets kind of meshed together with when can we get floors buffed and polished and waxed, and when can we get carpets cleaned, and what's the best use of time? Is it to move everything into a classroom, then move it out and wax the floors, and then move it back in? So it's all a bunch of stuff kind of going back and forth. And in regards to warranty, it's my understanding that if we take occupancy, we get warranty, our warranty begins on the items that are currently within the facility, but items such as the bleachers that have not arrived yet, their warranty period would start once they arrive and they are properly installed. That answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That was a very good update. Thank you.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, you can see what's taking place right now. Landscaping outside is going in, which is great. They've graded our, what we call parcels 3 and 4 over across the road. So that's going to be partially sodded, partially seeded. As Ben said earlier, we're going to be, determining how to best outfit that space to suit our students, whether that's courts or playgrounds or whatever makes the most sense. Additionally, we're working on getting a fence to kind of surround that area facing, is it Hudson Road? So that if any stray balls or whatever, find their way towards the road, it won't end up in the road. And the way that it was graded as well creates kind of a nice, almost a transition ditch there as well. So that should be nice and safe for our kiddos. Any questions on where we're at right now? This has been such a long time coming to get to where we're at. I'm feeling a little bit nostalgic today because I'm not sure if everybody knows here, but today is my last official board meeting. So my term expires at the end of this meeting, essentially. So, I'm just kind of looking back at how far this school has come since we first came to this school in its second year of existence. What is that, 8 years ago? 7 years ago? And we came here because of the curriculum curriculum because of the staff and because of the cultural diversity that you just don't get anywhere else in a school in this area, right? And these are things that are very important to our family and our kids. But I was personally tired of every single year not knowing if we were going to be able to be in the building we're in, right? Every year it was a discussion of where are we going to be next year. So I was convinced to join the facilities committee, which led to a board seat, which led to negotiating for the building that we're in right now, which led to purchasing the building we're in right now, which led to purchasing, or actually negotiating a gift of the land across the road, and negotiating to build our gym next door. I just can't express enough how important the job of this board is and how impressed I am by the work that you guys have done, not just in the facility space, but let's all remember, this is volunteer work, right? We all have lives and jobs, right? But we're here because we care about this school, we care about this community, and we care about our kids, right?
All set.
And that's why I do it. So it's going to be a little bittersweet for me, but I have decided that I am going to stick it out on the facilities committee as a non-board member until we can finally get the keys in our hands. I at least want to see that through. So, yeah, with that, I've actually got some agenda items here to cover. Facilities committee. Sorry, give me a microphone and I'll riff. Sorry. Okay, so back to some order of business. So I spoke with Andy Sharp, and you know, he had been a member of the facilities committee previously, and provided some great input as we designed what was going to be in the gym, how it's going to be laid out and everything. But he emailed me on May 10th saying, and I'll just read it, he is resigning from the facilities committee due to conflicting schedules. I won't be able to be a part of the facilities committee moving forward. It's been a great experience, and I'm so glad that I was part of the process of the new gym. However, I've made other personal choices outside of WLA that would impact my full participation on this committee. Thank you so much for the opportunity again, Andy Sharp. So with that, I would make a motion to accept the resignation of Andy Sharp from this facilities committee.
Second that. There's been a motion and a second to accept Andy Sharp's resignation from the facilities committee. Sad to see him go, but I understand. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion passes.
Additionally, I have, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Julie O's to the facilities committee as a board member on the committee. And I just want to say just a couple words about Julie and her experience. She's been a member of Woodbury City Council for years. She has a great amount of experience in this space, has obviously worked in schools for quite a while. And I think that she would be a great addition to the facilities committee. So with that, again, I make a motion to appoint Julie O's to the facilities committee.
I'll second that.
Can I ask a quick question? Who will be the chairperson? Will he be the
We're going to talk about that.
Okay, I didn't know if that was.
Yeah, we'll get there. We got a lot of moving things to move around, yeah. So there's been a motion and a second to appoint Julie O's to the facilities committee. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention. Congratulations, thank you. Yeah.
Once you say one voting first.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Jason. Okay, we're gonna move through item 7, or the 7 items on our agenda agenda here. So the first one is a strategic plan update. We, at the WLA conference this week, they provided a lot of examples of like a summary strategic plan document, just like a page and a half, 2-page type of a document that summarizes all the work that we have done. And so I brought a couple home with me, and so I'm making it my kind of personal goal to just put that together and bring it to you guys next meeting, because I feel like we've done the work, but now if you're like me, it's kind of, there was like so many things discussed that I want to make sure that we stay all focused on the items that we determine were the most important. So I look forward to bringing that to you guys for your thoughts and input, definitely in draft form, and then have you help me finalize it, and obviously work with admin to continue to stay focused on those things. But I noticed a lot of the things you brought up in your director's report today hit on some of the safe environment and some of the things that we definitely put on our strategic plan for next year. So that's the update I have today. Anything additional? Okay, 7.2, VOA action timeline. So I included in the board packet, and we referred to several times, the action timeline recommendations from VOA. And in talking with them, they're definitely strong recommendations, and they're also open to our thoughts on the timing. And do want to make sure that we're diligently working on these things, and I know as a board that we are committed to that. So. But if we do want to make changes to the timing, this is the time to do that. So I thought maybe we could kind of walk through some of these together, and then especially those of you, I know a lot of this falls on governance committee. There's been a lot on your plate lately. Shelby and Natalie as members of that committee. So I do want your feedback. If you feel like you need time on any of these things, or whatever it may be, let's go ahead and make that known now, rather than after the fact. So the first action is to consider modifying mandated reporting policies and procedures, access to school council by board, and clarifying who is mandated to report. And it suggests that we would potentially review mandated reporting policies and procedures and access to school council at the July board meeting.
So the first note I made was that the review access to school council by the board. We did discuss that May the 11th, and I believe we came to the discussion that if someone was to make a motion to allow any board members to reach out to council, then a board member could make that motion. It would need to be approved, and then it would change. Otherwise, it'll stay as it stands now for the board chair or executive director.
I think it wouldn't hurt to revisit it, just because I do, our board makeup will change as of the end of this meeting. We're welcoming a new member, and so I just think that it would be helpful to just revisit the conversation, even if it's a quick one.
I think we can definitely do that in July. I think that would be fine.
All right, so we'll make sure those get on the July board meeting agenda then. Okay.
The mandated reporting policies and procedures, can you clarify what? Because I'm looking through and I'm I don't know where that would fall.
I don't think it's a governance policy. I think it's a Minnesota statute. So it's not something that we put into place as the governance committee as far as mandated reporting. It's a policy implemented by MDE. Right. So for us to review it, we can't make any changes to it. It's not our
But I think that's what they're saying, is they just want us to review it so that we're all familiar.
So include it in the board packet and to have a discussion on it.
Yep.
Okay. Then we can do that in July, I would say.
Yes,
I guess
that isn't, you're right, Shelby, that's not necessarily, that is not a governance committee issue, so. Okay. Let's see. So then, tying into that, reviewing the policy though, it's also recommended to receive training on the topic of mandated reporting, specifically who is a mandated reporter and the process of reporting. And so they're saying that we would ask someone to do that training potentially at the August board meeting and help us understand ongoing monitoring of mandated reporting policies and procedures to use.
MD puts out resources for mandated reporting, and that's one of the resources that we use when we're working with staff members for some of the professional development throughout the year. So they put a pretty concise presentation together. There you go, Shelby, way to go.
Mandated reporter training overview by MD.
All pulled up together, and so that might be one of your avenues to go down.
It is 8 minutes and 29 seconds long, provided by MD.
So we can watch that at the August board meeting.
Yep.
Although maybe it would make sense to pair that with the reviewing the mandated reporting policies in the same meeting. So maybe we review the policies in August and do the training in August, or vice versa. Maybe we can figure that out as we go through to see
You can print
things
out
are.
the policy from MD, so that way you have it to access while you're going through the video, and then you can do your review.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so next box here, immediate action, the board will stop using private WLA Facebook group or any other social media accounts to discuss school-related topics. So that's just instructional to each of us that from this point going forward, and we probably should update our board documents
That's
and
what I was just gonna
expectations
suggest, that
to do that.
be
So I'm gonna put that down to cover that. But just to be loud and clear, from this point forward, board members should stop using any kind of private WLA Facebook group or any other social media account to discuss school-related topics.
Including their personal accounts.
Yeah, yep. Okay. So September, recommendation is to do open meeting law training. How do you guys feel about that? I did talk with Jim Martin, who's our HR lawyer, and he does a lot of these trainings. He partners with, I think it's called ChatSource, or Charter Source, to do trainings. But anyway, he said that he'd be more than willing to come and do some of these trainings for us. So I think that would be a really good one to have him. He's been really helpful working through some of these things. So I think he'd be a good person to tap into for that training. All right. Keep moving then. So board might want to further consider revising bylaws or add additional board policy that includes a process for remediation or intervention steps that should be considered prior to the vote for removal of a board member. So it's suggesting August board meeting to potentially revise the bylaws, and then September board meeting to update the bylaws.
Do we need to like first, second read? Or kind of?
Yeah, it would take 2 meetings to move that through, but that also would mean that is a governance committee.
And it does say like revising the bylaws or adding additional board policies. So I know we had, Shelby, I think you were at that meeting too. We had kind of discussed this at the governance committee meeting in maybe April. Kind of the different avenues that we can go down. And I can't remember if we had looked at different schools and like what they had. But maybe at the August governance meeting, we can kind of do that more thoroughly and look at those 2 kind of routes. I don't know, and then present that to the board. Does that make sense? Does that sound like, and then we can kind of decide which route or thing we want to go as far as making.
As long as that gives you enough time. Revising bylaws is kind of a cumbersome process. So as long as you feel like, because you'd really have 2 weeks between talking about it.
Like which way, because we could just, it sounds
Right, like as a board, and maybe that's a conversation we have now, what direction do you want to see the governance committee move to? Do we want a change? Do we not want a change? What do we want the change to look like? I mean, does it make sense for us to put a ton of time into putting together 3 pathways if we have a clear thought of direction we want to
would we
go?
rather revise our bylaws or create a policy about that kind of situation?
Yeah. So maybe what I would suggest is maybe making that an agenda item on our July board meeting to have that discussion as a board. And then that would give the governance committee a clear path forward so you guys aren't spinning your wheels and wasting time. Okay.
That would be great.
Okay. Next one, policy regarding student discipline and what degree and when the board of directors gets involved, and data privacy. So it's suggesting August board meeting, the board could consider reviewing and updating school and board policies for how discipline problems are addressed by school administration. And I think you guys have kind of been working on that some, but I don't know if you added in the piece about to what degree and when the board of directors gets involved.
Yeah, I mean, reviewing it just, again, now, it just has like, if the director is involved, then it goes to the board chair, but it doesn't really move beyond that. So we can look at what other schools might have,
Okay.
or just add our own, and what the next step would be, or looking at that at our August governance meeting.
Okay. And then maybe we can talk about it at the August board meeting.
Yeah, just kind of, if we make an amendment to the 514, just to add, make sure those things are covered, then we would be able to second rate this one.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then suggesting private data training at the September board meeting. So that would probably be another one that Jim Martin might be able to help us with that. Is that the same board meeting as
Open
it is the same board meeting. So maybe we could just do both of those. Invite him once, and he could come do open meeting law training and protecting private data training. I'll just have to make sure he's available. Okay. So the next one is discipline policy, June board meeting, review discipline policy. So
We did that.
we did that today, but we decided to keep it open.
No, that's the one we approved second reading,
Okay.
because it had been gone through a few times. So that one, I think we did check that off
Okay.
and met that.
All right. And then do an annual review of discipline policy.
As a board or as a governance?
Well, governors committee, and then you'd bring it here.
I think that's already something.
We do most policies like on a 3-year rotational basis, because there's a
I think
lot
there's
to
a
get
few, like the
But there might,
uniform
yeah,
that we look for,
uniform
yeah.
do see a lot, but yes, okay. So then there's a conflict of interest. There needs to be specific guidance for when and how school administration involves the board for avoiding conflicts of interest. And so, and that's something they say June board meeting. I think that the fact that we're just going through this now, I don't feel like we're prepared to have that discussion here right now. So I think this is one that we probably need to suggest on a different timeline. And I'm not sure if it ties into,
Privacy.
well, yeah, it ties into so many of them, right? Privacy and, oh, there's another one. I wish she's remembered, but, well, anyway, okay, doesn't matter. Where would you guys like to discuss that? And how would you foresee discussing that? Is that committee work? Is that something we talk about here?
Which one are we on? I'm sorry.
I know, that's why I was saying I wish they remembered. So
There
the one that
needs to be.
says June board meeting.
Okay.
Specific guidance on when and how school administration involves the board and for avoiding conflict.
I think that needs to be a conversation when Kathy is here, obviously. Since it involves school administration and the board communication. But I think there's confusion as to what the board should be notified of as far as behavior is concerned. And just noting that we are here to govern, not be involved in that information. It's not, I mean, frankly, it's not our business unless it gets to the expulsion level where we as a school board have to decide if we are or are not going to support an expulsion. So I think that needs to just be a conversation that we have openly for everyone to understand. Here is our role. It doesn't cross this line until this point, but that has to be a Kathy.
And I would also say that in the event that a board member's children, for example, are part of are involved in an incident, then it would seem that that board member would have to remove themselves from the conversation due to conflict of interest.
Yep.
And just focus on being a parent for that moment.
Okay, so maybe
July.
Find
July special.
maybe if there's a delegate or something,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep. Okay, so we'll do a July board meeting. consider requesting management establish a template for academic reports to the board that meets their expectations and aligns to the school assessment calendar and when state data is public. Additional training for board members on how to review academic data would be good for all WLA boards. So, this says August board meeting. I think that seems reasonable, but that's probably, I know you can't necessarily speak for Kathy, but I think it would probably be you guys suggesting a template and then us looking over it and making sure it meets our expectations.
Yeah, and I think that would be in coordination with our new curriculum coordinator and our new data assessment kind of person, our new DAC.
Do you think
So-
that's, oh, I'm sorry. Well, I was just gonna say she won't be on staff. I mean, she's on staff, but she won't be in her, she's off for the summer. So, August board
that was
meeting
gonna be
might
my
be a
comment
little
today.
preliminary for that.
I don't have that person's agreement in front of me, but I believe that there's extended days on there, so they may be back in August, but whether or not they'd be prepped and ready to rock for a August board meeting, I'm not sure of. So it might be best to do it in September. We're just rolling out with students being here, and we can get a plan in place for
Yeah.
that school year.
Plus, I think that would be helpful because if I'm remembering right, I think MCA data is like unembargoed in October. So it'd be good to get the template set up and ready, and then that way, when that information is ready, then it can be filled in and that can be presented in an October meeting. So that seems,
Yeah, it seems like
Okay.
we're kind of having a long August anyway.
yeah.
Maybe we should-
Right, okay, so, yeah, I think I'm maybe suggesting 2 changes to the timeline based on our conversation. So I'll get those submitted to WLA. Okay, thank you guys for helping me work through that. Okay. Okay, next one is an exciting one. So item 7.3 is to seat our new board members. So we had our election and are very excited to seat Ryan Cheek to our open parent seat. And Jolene Squirdahl, we're excited to have you return in a teacher seat. So at this time, I would love to have Ryan join us. Here at the table, you get to pick a seat, and I think that Nancy made you a sign so you can pick your seat and join us at the table. So, and then and then I know anyone who read your bio or participated in the election already knows a little bit about you. But if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself a little bit.
Sure. Ryan Sheep, been a part of this school for, I think, 7 years now. So we have 3 kids that go here. We fell in love the first year that we've had our kid here, from just the teachers wanting to invest in our kids' lives to, just the all-around atmosphere from academics to, just the investment of what the school wants to put into our kids. And so, and I feel it's very genuine. Everybody has room for improvement, as I do in my life, so I'm just here to help invest into our school as well, continue that, and just give back in some way that I can to just help brighten the future of the school and help support the students, staff, and of course the stakeholders here too. So excited to be here.
Yeah, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Love to have you.
I work with Donovan sometimes, love the kid, love his hairdos. And I appreciate your law enforcement background. The times we're in. Be a great asset for many reasons, that being one. So welcome. Thank you.
Okay, and Jolene, would you like to say a few words?
Well, I'm not one for words, so I just want to say I'm not getting nostalgic. I'm going to continue to row the boat and get this ship on the water.
Yeah. Yeah, if anyone gets to celebrate finally having a gym to do a class in. So you've spent many warm and cold and nice days on that field, so
Right.
thank you for your dedication, continued dedication. Okay. So item 7.4 is discussion about appointing board member into.
Do we need need to actually make a motion to seat board
I'm so
members?
sorry, I'm so sorry. Yeah, let's,
I'll make, well.
You do it.
I'll
I think you
just
actually need
work
to,
this-
I think the motion, well, can I just make it, because I
Yeah,
think,
you go ahead.
we need to make a motion to ratify the election results, and to officially appoint Ryan Sheik into open parent seat and Jolene Swordall into, the open teacher seat.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to ratify election results and to seat our 2 new board members. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion passes. Congratulations. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to skip so fast there. So item 7.4 was intended to provide a discussion of the fact that we do have 1 open parent seat available, and have casually had several parents mention an interest in filling that seat, but don't have any actual self-nomination forms submitted at this time. So kind of using this an opportunity to do sort of an all call of parents who might be interested in filling that seat. We'd really love to potentially fill that seat at the next board meeting so that we can get off with our school year, with our board as we're working through some of these bigger things and decisions. It'd just be great to have our complete board. And so I would like to ask parents if you would like to put your name in the hat for that, to submit your self-nomination form hopefully by the end of next week.
They're posted online at the.
They're posted online.
Yeah, can you maybe just explain the process real quick?
Yeah, sure. I'm just gonna get that date real quick, sorry.
Oh, perfect.
So, July 1st is next Friday. And so and we can kind of put this little soft deadline on line 2, but if by July 1st we have some self-nomination forms online, so the process would be that parents would fill out the self-nomination form online, and then we as a board, and this is something we can do right now, would typically have kind of an ad hoc committee meet with each of the candidates and interview them. You'll remember we have an interview sheet that we as a board use and can provide, and then we would ask that ad hoc committee to come back to the board with a recommendation of which parent they'd like to recommend for that, and the board can either ratify that or accept that or not. So that's kind of the process. Okay, so who would like to potentially serve on that ad hoc committee to meet with the potential parent board members?
I can do it.
Julie?
I might run into childcare issues.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I do it, but
Jolene? Okay. Okay.
We need someone else besides
Yeah.
teachers.
Maybe.
Would they be in person or virtually?
I think
I am
they
off
could
for
be
2
either way.
weeks starting Friday, so
Yeah.
I don't want to commit to
Yeah.
having to be here
Yeah.
in the building, but I could be virtually available if.
How do you feel about that? That might help your,
I prefer virtually.
Okay,
if
then let's
possible.
just do that. Yeah, I think that's fine.
Because I would be willing to help if
so
it can
Shelby
be
too.
virtual.
Okay,
Yeah.
so expectation will be that those self-nomination forms will come in, and Julie and Jolene and Shelby will work together to interview those candidates. And maybe there's only one. I mean, I don't know, but we'll see. And we can send a blast out too with that information to parents. Say if you're interested, fill out your form and send it in. Okay.
Are teachers welcome on these committees? Someone expressed an interest in a committee and chairing the committee as a teacher.
Tell me a little bit more. Sorry, what committee?
Oh, you jumped ahead, Julie.
Did I?
Oh, okay, yeah, we haven't
Oh,
got there
yep,
yet.
sorry.
Yeah, we haven't got there yet. Okay. So, but that is where we are now, sorry. So, 7.5, discuss committee assignments. So, maybe just this summer, summer is like such a big time for change because we have shifting board roles and we have, that then impacts shifting committee roles. And so, I just thought it would be helpful to just have a conversation about our committees and if we have needs we're looking for on our committees, like if you're really wanting someone with a legal background or whatever it may be on your committees, and then board members, are you happy with the committees you're serving on? Is there a different committee that you'd like to be in charge of? So let's start by maybe answering your question first. So someone has expressed interest to joining a committee? Yeah.
Specifically finance.
Okay, yeah.
And actually chairing it.
Okay.
And it's a teacher.
Okay. Yeah, we are, I mean, I think the committee thing works kind of the same way as some of our board decisions, is that that person would speak probably with the current chair, attend, what we've done in the past is attend a meeting, make sure they think it's a good fit, make sure the committee feels like it's a good fit and they are in addition to the group, and then that committee would bring a recommendation to the board. So yes, teachers you don't have to be a board member to be on a committee. In fact, it's best to have, diverse group of people. So like we have a, non-board member parent on each of our committees right now, and a non-board member teacher on a few of our committees, and so, governance for sure. So yeah, that's
So I can pass that on to that person.
Yep. So I would send either that to that person or send that person to the current chair of the committee. That
We're all
makes sense.
together every day.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Let's talk about what other questions you guys have about.
How about,
committees.
and this is maybe for Ryan's benefit, but can we just identify all of the different committees that we currently have? Because that might help him decide, which committee makes sense.
Yeah, so Ryan, we did talk about this a little bit to get orientation. And so we have 3 board committees, standing board committees. So every once in a while you'll have an ad hoc one, but standing board committees are the Finance Committee, which is currently chaired by Jolene, and I serve on as well. And then we have the Facilities Committee, which is currently chaired by Jason, and Julie and Jolene and I serve on that as board members, and other people as well. And then we have a Governance Committee, which is actually currently chaired by Jess Erickson, and Shelby and Natalie serve on that committee. I'll let you share where you kind of felt like you were able to use your gifts best.
Sure, yeah, so, for me, the facilities would be probably my top go-to. I have obviously a background in safety, security, from if that's medical to, just a security standpoint. I've briefly talked to Dr. Mortensen about security audit of the school, the new facility, and then possible emergency response team, training teachers, and going over a policy and program on how to just respond to medicals, and that need from staff to students to guests, etc. So that is of interest to me and a strength of mine. Also, I'm versed in policies as well. I do that for my current position as well, one of my duties in the job. So also able and willing and experienced in going through policies and discussing those as well. So wherever I can help and strengthen the bench in any of those, I'm more than willing. So wherever the needs at.
Okay.
I'm just going to throw this out there because from time to time we can add committees if it becomes something that's necessary. I'm just wondering if there is enough need for, and I'll just loosely call it a safety and security committee at all. I don't know.
This conversation when Kathy gets back. Sounds like they've been kind of talking about that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But to formalize it into a committee may be a good idea.
And it could be, it probably would fit under facilities too, maybe as a
Maybe an
component of
umbrella.
facilities as well. But, just given your
facilities.
background, I think it would be crazy for us not to take advantage of everything that you could offer.
Absolutely.
Could facilities kind of transform into that? I feel like now that we've kind of done our gym, it's gonna need to kind of transform its
Right.
role.
Yeah, and we've talked about that as a committee as well. We've talked about kind of once we get past this major milestone of current build out of, our gym and everything, kind of taking a look at what the facilities committee is going to be best chartered to do. Because there's a couple of different aspects of that, right? I mean, we've been very focused on new build and expansion and you know, creating the correct space for our kids. You know, meeting with our strategic goals and everything else. And you know, going forward, there's going to be, you know, maintenance stuff. There's going to be additional capital projects that we'll have to identify. You know, but it's almost kind of forking a little bit into.
Well, I would maybe say this would be a good conversation for the facilities committee, maybe
Yep.
to talk about. So maybe
So we'll table this conversation
here and then
here.
pick it up there.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. So I just want to, I guess, broadly ask, open floor here, does anybody want to change what committees are on? How are your committees working? How do you guys want to serve going forward?
Can I say I misspoke? The teacher's interested in governance, not finance.
Oh,
So
okay,
just do that.
okay.
I'd like to reach out to your parents.
Yeah. Yeah. I also do want to say, I know someone earlier asked you, I think it was Natalie, you about, so in the bylaws, it does say every board committee has to have a board member on it, but they don't necessarily have to chair it. So someone had said, you know, is this a time to move Jason out of his chair role? It might or might not be, depending on what Jason's commitment looks like, but he can stay in that role, even as a non-board member. So, and that's what happened with Jess. So Jess moved off of the board, but then stayed in her role as governance committee chair.
And then we just need somebody to present.
But you do need somebody to present as
So
well. So either
Yeah.
you have to have them come to the board each time when you call them in, or have pass the information on to someone else who's gonna report for them, which is kind of what you do for governance. Okay, so maybe just go through the committees. Governance committee, Shelby, Natalie, how you guys feeling? Do you want any changes?
I think it's worth having Kathy like talk to staff, and especially maybe new staff, old staff, where, I don't know, all staff, about joining committees, because I know we have, I can't think of her name off right now, I'm drawing a blank, but
Erin.
yeah.
Who's here?
Well, the teacher, that's not coming back.
Kylie?
Okay.
Kylie. Like, what is her name? Kylie. She's not returning, is that correct?
No, and I'm
So I
actually
think-
wondering if, I don't know how, can we like ask, like Kylie's incoming person to join our committee? You know, like I feel like with Kylie's.
Ask anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
just reach out
I don't know.
to people. Because I think losing Kylie would make the committee a little bit, you know.
You're big away there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you like having that expertise.
Yeah, and I feel like that's
For sure.
part of her role, so it really helps have that perspective as well. It's like, I don't know if Cassidy or somebody else coming in more of me as a
Sure.
tonight, so I can reach out to those.
Yeah.
and see if we-
Do you think it's part of her role because Kylie was a dean? Because our new person is not a dean, or
No, she just has to like a lot of the, she just knows a lot of the policy, like, I feel like.
Yeah, that
And
was just, yeah,
I
that
feel
was
like.
Kylie.
Yeah,
I don't know if our
feel
new
like-
person in that role does.
Policy walk.
We got
Yeah.
one at the corner of the table over
Yeah,
there.
that's true.
True.
Yeah, we would love your expertise as well. I just don't know if you're looking to serve on two,
Right.
because I don't want to pull you away from facilities as well. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I would just say, do some reach outs, to see if there's a skill set you're looking to get, and then you can think about it. Yeah, okay. Okay. Want to talk about finance committee, Jolene?
If there's someone who would like to chair that committee, I would step down. If there's someone else who has an interest in it. If there isn't, I will maintain that.
It's a good committee, there's a lot of
Yeah.
expertise on that committee.
There is a lot of
Bergen
expertise.
PDB,
They're very
so
good.
both Bridget and Brenda come each month, and then Judith, stayed, even though she moved out of her role at Bergen, she stayed on that committee, so she's super helpful.
Right.
And then we do have a non-board parent member on the committee that's a good perspective to have, and, yeah. Okay, we'll leave that be for now. Okay.
Maintain.
Facilities committee. Jason, you'll work with Ryan to get him information on the next meeting, and then you can think about whether you want to stay in your chair position or if you want to pass that on. But I don't think you need to. If you want to keep it.
Sean would be sad.
Sean would be
Right.
very sad. Yeah,
Better
Sean would
stay.
be sad. Yeah. Okay, we can give that some thought. Okay. And just maybe a general announcement, if there's someone, a stakeholder out there that has a strong interest in one of these areas and
I did a lot of that with the city.
Yeah.
And I also trained out east at Emmitsburg, the National Safety Institute.
Okay.
With FEMA and Homeland Security.
All right, good. That'll be, you can share that in the community.
That would be that too.
Okay, so 7.6, discuss roles of board chair, secretary, and treasurer. So, when a board member joins the board, your term is a 3-year term, but then, and that's elected by, the general public stakeholders, but then once on the board, it's our job to figure out who wants to serve as chair for next year, who wants to serve as a secretary for next year, and who wants to serve as the treasurer for next year. I'm not asking to make those votes or nominations tonight. I think that I just wanted people to just discuss it, and specifically, those who are in those roles, stating whether they want to stay in those roles or move, and then that would give others an option to think about, if they want to step in to a different role, and what that might be. So we'll start with myself. I would love to step down from a chair role and help someone, mentor someone next year to the extent that they're interested. It'll be my final year on the board, and I've done this for a long time, and I've learned a lot. It's been challenging and rewarding, but I think that I would, for the best of our school, I would love to help facilitate kind of a soft transition to someone who might want to step into this role, rather than next summer, if I did it again for a year, come to next summer, then I'm off the board, and it might be kind of a hard transition for our school. So maybe hear from Natalie or Jolene, and then we can have a discussion about who might want to step into these various roles.
I'll kind of echo, this coming year is my final year as well. And I'm not sure what the future holds, I guess, as well. So as the secretary, I don't even know how we want to balance. If you're looking to move, I would be okay staying in the secretary role. It is a bit more work every month. But you learn it and then you know how to do it. But same with Mandy, I'm gonna have to pass that torch more than likely next summer, and it's an easier torch to pass than board chair. So I guess that's my thought of, I would be able to stay in the role my final year. If there's somebody looking to be in kind of that role, I feel like the secretary is like a stepping stone to the board chair. So I don't know, those are my thoughts.
How do you feel about treasurer?
Well, I feel like if I'm going to maintain my position on the finance committee, it makes sense for me to stay in the treasurer role.
Yeah, those two kind of go together. So those are sort of packaged. Yeah. So you can either transition both or
Right.
maintain both.
Right.
Are you interested at all in?
I am interested in the secretary position, but I'm not interested in chairing finance committee and secretary at the same time.
So if I shifted to, so if I shifted to a finance committee role and then was okay with being treasurer, we would kind of, you would be open to flip-flopping that.
Right.
I think I would need to know more of what a treasurer does now that I've learned what a secretary does.
Right.
And if that would really help the group too.
I'd also maybe just kind of put it to the rest of the board. Are there any positions that are of interest to anyone else too? And we're not voting on these positions today.
I don't think so. I thought I wanted to give people a month to just, these are big positions, they're very time consuming, and I just want to give people some time to think about it. If that's okay.
I'm not sure, we've talked about a couple of the roles. I'm chair on another board and I'm secretary on another board, so I don't want to overextend myself. So I need to.
And I am happy to help in a different capacity, so whether that be filling secretary role, we work fairly closely together on a lot of, building board packets and things like that, and so if that's a way that just don't think this is probably the right role for me this next year. And Ryan, just to give you a pass. We typically don't.
We won't nominate you.
Yeah, we typically don't expect people to join the board and then jump right into, especially chair role. So just sit comfortably. So.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask other people how, I don't know, I don't wanna I don't know this way, like, because the secretary feels like a stepping stone, so I don't know if it's okay to ask Jolene, like, do you ever see yourself wanting to fill the chair role as like a, or, I don't know if you're allowed to ask that.
I need to do a lot more thinking and talking to people that could help coach, or
Are we allowed?
I need to learn a lot more about it.
Like, if a person had questions about what a secretary role is, they're allowed to reach out to me and I'm allowed to give them
Yeah, one-on-one, yeah, one is not student, but yeah. Shelby, any advice from your?
I've just been quiet. I don't know. It's the schools I've worked in the past, the board chair is typically not a school employee. So that kind of gets hairy in some situations, I think, where as the board chair, you have to represent all of your constituents, and as a staff member, it's hard to kind of sometimes take that hat. So,
You'd also be doing the review of your boss.
right.
I just had another thought based on the governance training that I went to a few years ago now, is some schools do have stipends for board members. That's kind of like a, not incentive for people to run, but, and I think we had brought this up before as well, but, if we're seeing, we want to attract more people to the role, even though we all, it is a volunteer role and we do it because we love it. I think that is an option that I'm just throwing out there if we want to think about that as a board too, in the future, to maybe attract teachers who, want to give more, but they just can't spread themselves that thin, if that makes sense, or they're working other jobs too.
Yeah, I have to look into the legality of that. I haven't done any of that homework.
It feels fishy or strange, but
it might work for community.
If you're talking, community members, but not for teachers. Teachers, you may go a
It
different
wasn't
avenue with
teacher.
maybe a release of duty or something instead of that. If you choose to serve on a committee or the board, maybe you're released from your bus duty or lunch supervision or whatever the duty might be that you're assigned.
yeah. Because I know the election committee tried to pull people in, or how can we attract more people to this board member role?
In this budget, I believe Kathy put in the board clerk role with the stipend and then taking on more responsibility. Because I do this because I love you guys. But I don't get paid for it, but she's looking at expanding the board clerk role to be more of a support. And so if you're thinking about the secretary role or one of the other roles, if you have somebody sort of assisting you with some of the behind the scenes stuff, that might change your decision a little bit. Your thoughts about whether you would be willing to step into a role.
So on that note, this is Nancy's last board meeting as well, Jason. So she has been helping us as our board clerk since you started.
Forever.
I think. Forever.
Yeah.
What feels like forever. Is an invaluable resource for us to look to. What do you think about that, Nancy? So we will miss you. Thank you for all the
Still watching.
you. I know you. We tried to let you out of this role before, and she's like, no, I really like it. I want to stay. So this is kind of my thing. So yeah. So, but thank you, seriously. Okay, so some soul searching over the next month, and we'll figure it out at our next meeting. Okay? Reach out with questions or, yeah. All right. So let's move to item 7.7, which is a board meeting calendar. We traditionally have met the fourth Wednesday of each month at 5:30. when I say traditionally, each year we come up with our own calendar, so that can change. I just want to start the conversation with that and see if you guys want to continue meeting at that time and date, or if there's some different date that works well. I feel like you have something to say.
I have a very strong plea. Okay. We might as well.
Okay.
That we move our meetings to Thursdays, because as the secretary, getting the board packet ready on a Sunday is one of the biggest burdens.
Yeah.
And if you're missing a piece for the packet, you're trying to track people down on their weekend.
Yes.
So getting the packet out on a Monday would be so much easier for whoever's in that role.
Yes.
And if our board meetings go really late on a Wednesday, whoever has to go to work for the rest of the week can get a lot. So, you know, if you just had Friday after a big board meeting, probably take a weight off a lot of people's shoulders. So I'm going to put that out there.
I prefer Thursday as well, just for family commitments that happen Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the fourth Thursday.
Right.
The time is, I think,
What do you
we've
guys think
gone-
about fourth Thursday? Shelby, you're checking your calendar?
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of commitments you have.
I'm just thinking like conferences and that kind of stuff are usually on a Thursday.
Yeah.
At least at our school they are. But looking at our conferences, January 26th would be a no for me. But our other conferences are not on the fourth Thursday.
I'm gonna look at our school calendar real quick while you guys are talking.
MEA.
Is that, I don't think that'd be fourth.
No, that's third.
Yeah.
So I would just have 1 month of conflict. Otherwise, I would be clear on Thursdays.
The other point is the time, and we bounced our time around multiple directions. I think we used to meet at 6 or 6:30 or something along those lines.
We used to be at 6.
Yeah.
And then the board meeting was really long.
And,
so
and
we
that was,
decided.
yeah, that was
And it
mostly
was a long
because it was
time
hard
for
for me to get
teachers.
here from
Yeah,
work.
Yeah.
But,
And
I
then
mean, I
everything
work
went
from home
virtual.
now, so.
Yeah, right.
I really love the 5:30.
Okay.
I've been on too many boards that start late and
Okay.
go really late. And as a teacher rep, it's nice, stay here, catch up on something.
Yeah.
Go grab a bite or bring a bite, and here we are.
We felt like 5:30 was a good kind of compromise. The teachers wouldn't have to stay too late, but then also parents would have time, or community members would have time to get off from their day jobs and get here. So, okay, if that time's working, maybe we'll stick with that then. Just looking at the school calendar for this coming year, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of conflicts on the fourth Thursday of each month.
Okay, sorry.
Well, I was just thinking we might want to check with Brenda and Bridget, make sure they don't have another board committee on the fourth Thursday, because they present each month, and that's very important part of our meeting, so just want to make sure.
I'm so used to Wednesdays that I like them,
Yeah.
because I know I've never committed to anything else, but I'm not opposed to moving to Thursdays, and that works better for other people. And you applied thinking it would be Wednesdays. Or
Yeah.
is Thursday okay for
Okay.
you?
Thursday do just fine.
Okay, I did give him a heads up that we would reset the calendar as a group. I will give you a heads up that the last week of July, going on a scout trip to Yellowstone without virtual access, so I do not mind at all if you hold the meeting without me. But Natalie's wincing.
Well,
But
it's also a big one for.
I also would be, I don't know what people's schedule look like, the third week of July, if we'd want to just book a date that week, and then by that point in time, we would have had time to check with BKDA, make sure, or Bergen KDB, to make sure that they are good to go with Thursdays, and then we could finalize the calendar going forward.
Well, but the 20th, I'll bring birthday cake. That's my birthday.
Oh, have fun.
Should we just do the 20th, and then so that if, finance has a conflict,
Okay, sure.
then we don't run
Yeah,
into that
Okay,
before.
how does that work for you guys? What are you, Shelby?
I will not be here on the 20th.
Okay.
That's my only other week of vacation all summer.
So if we wanted you to be board chair.
Nominate you.
Well, in that case, I won't be here, so I cannot say you put a no to that. I'll cancel my vacation plan.
Well, you guys could vote her in, but she's not.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of.
20th, I will not be here
would you be able to do it 27th?
Yes,
Or the 20, yeah, 28th?
yes, 27th or 28th.
Yeah, that works for me too.
Just have Jacob buy a
Perfect.
satellite phone.
Yeah.
I get you those.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. So I think I'm hearing that we're gonna try to proceed with the fourth Thursday of each month, starting with July 28th, and then pending checking with Bergen DEP.
I think we should also decide what month we want our annual meeting to be in. Because we kind of went back and forth and shifted it around. Do we want to just stick with January and say that's a good sweet spot? And make it our normal regular meeting? Whatever meeting we have in January.
I agree with it.
I don't really have a vote in it.
I guess you won't be at that meeting. Shelby wouldn't be at that meeting. That's the one she
Why?
missed.
Oh, you're missing January. Is that the one you said? Do you know, because your conferences maybe?
26th, Thursday, 26th, like you said.
Yes, January 26th.
I just think as a suggestion, maybe you confirm for your July date, and then everybody has a chance to check their calendars, get their conflicts,
Bring it to the next meeting.
bring it to the July
okay.
meeting, so then we can
Yep.
kind of move on from this agenda.
Okay. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So, at this point, I'm gonna work our way into a closed session to discuss executive director feedback and annual review process. So, doing an annual review of our executive director is one of the most important things that our board does. And so we have gathered a lot of feedback that we're going to review, and so we'll do that in a closed session. And so I'm going to, well, maybe I should say before we close it, that executive directors do have an option about whether they want to keep the meeting open to have that discussion, or if they want to close it. And our executive director did want to have it in closed session, which is very common. So I'm going to make a motion to close the meeting as permitted by Minnesota Statute 13D.05 Subdivision 3A for the purpose of discussing the executive director annual evaluation.
Is it 03 or 05?
You said 03. Yeah.
I don't know.
That was what was said last year, so that's where that came from.
I heard you say 05. Did I mishear that?
No, you didn't. I have two.
It says 3.
It says 3 on
I
it.
know, but I'm reading a different one. I just wanna make sure that I get it right. It is 3. So it is 3, subdivision 3A. Thank you guys.
I'll second that motion.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to close the meeting as permitted by Minnesota Statute 13D3, Subdivision 3A for the purpose of discussing executive director annual evaluation. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so the board is going to convene to a different location, have our discussion while we're gone. Mr. Broderick's going to give a tour of the new facility if you'd like,